Thank you. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and then Raymond, would you take roll call and then do the required intro?
Will do. So we've got 9:02, and I'll start off with the COVID notices. Pursuant to the suspension of certain open meetings laws by Governor Greg Abbott, this CRRMA board meeting is being held by video and telephone conference. In accordance with the various federal, state, and local orders, the public may participate in the meeting using the video link or telephone conference information found on the CRRMA's website and on the posted agenda. This meeting is also being recorded and will be made available on CRRMA's website as soon as possible after conclusion of the meeting. During the meeting, each board member making a motion or a second should state who made each. The chair will then call for those in favor, against, or abstaining. The public is invited to participate in the meeting just as with all CRRMA meetings. If you're interested in asking a question or providing a comment, please submit a comment in the chat function of the video component or ask to be recognized by phone. If there are no questions from the board, we are ready to begin with the chair reading item 2 into the record.
Are there any public comments?
No, ma'am. And I apologize. I skipped over the roll call as you asked. Let me do that real quickly. Joyce Wilson.
Here.
Jim Smith.
Here.
Michael Norwich.
Here.
Luis Rosas. And he did provide notice that he would be absent. Patrick Byrne.
Here.
Nicholas Lamantia. Mr. Lamantia. Robert, would you mind giving him a call or a text to see if he can make it today? I did get a notice from him that he would be leaving early,
Yes, sir.
so he might be joining in a bit. And Marcos Zaragoza also provided notice that he would not be able to attend. So with that, I believe we're ready to go on to the agenda, Madam Chair.
Okay, so item number 2 are the adoption of the minutes from the meeting of October 14th, 2020. Does anyone have any comments or changes to the minutes that were presented? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
There's Jim. I move to approve. Second, Mike Norwich.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 3, discussion and action on a board resolution to authorize the executive director to execute an amendment to work authorization number 28.3 with Adkins North America, Inc. for additional services on the Wynn Road project.
Okay, for this one, this is Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So as provided in the backup, this one relates to a first amendment to the work authorization number 28.3 with Atkins, who serves as our general engineering consultant team for the Wynn Road project. This one has a bit of history. As you know, this is a City of El Paso project that we are developing on behalf of the city that is using federal funds. We have several work authorizations with our general engineering consultant team for this particular project, starting with number 28, which began on some preliminary planning support work for the City of El Paso. Eventually, we made it down into the 28.3 work authorization, which was specific to construction management services to be provided by Atkins. And that was entered into at the beginning of the project for just over $1.5 million. Well, through the completion of the project, and we are actually quite close to the end of the project. In fact, we have a final walkthrough planned for next week. The contractor actually ended up doing more work on weekends and after hours than was originally anticipated. So the resources of the general engineering consultant team was actually used more than originally anticipated. We are still on time for completion of the project, but again, the contractor ended up working more weekends and after hours than originally estimated. Therefore, Atkins has worked out a work authorization amendment in the total amount of $85,756.66. And that's what you see as your board backup. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a City of El Paso project that is being funded primarily through federal funds. The federal funds are covering 92.6% of the total project cost, which means 7.4 of this amendment and all of the prior work authorizations, and in fact, the construction activities are being funded through the city at 7.4%. So because of that, we have reviewed this amendment with the City of El Paso. They have concurred with it and are okay with us proceeding as laid out in the supporting documents. So with that in mind, I would recommend approval subject to your questions.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Who's our point of contact in the city with this?
It is Yvette Hernandez.
Okay.
Yes, sir. She runs the grant-funded program for the city. So the city has broken out their engineering division, which used to be known as the engineering department, into various divisions, and she handles all of the projects that receive federal funds.
Okay, all right.
And
So
she reports directly.
So she's good with all this, and
Yes, sir. We actually had a Teams meeting with her. We walked her through the amendment and gave her all the details, and she responded in writing in support.
Okay.
This is Mike Norwich. So I'm going to ask dumb questions here. So basically what this is the contractor was running behind, and so had to add a lot of overtime hours, weekend hours. And that's what this is basically entailing?
Actually, not necessarily. The contractor chose, and we've got Edgar Fino from our GEC team, and I'll ask him to chime in if I misspeak.
Okay.
But my understanding was that not that they were running behind and they needed to catch up, but rather they scheduled their work for weekends and longer hour days and that sort of thing. So to take it a step back, when our GEC team puts together an estimate, they look at the number of days for construction that we've provided through the contract, and they assume that the majority of that work will be done Monday through Friday. So they structure their hours and then calculate out the cost estimate based on that process. And that normally that works out quite well. But in this case, because the contractor has scheduled so many more hours after hours and again on weekends, it ended up burning through those resources quicker.
Okay. I mean, it seems weird to me that, if a contractor would not know that he's going to be having to put extra time and effort in on the weekends and those hours when they bid a deal. But I don't understand how
Just to be clear,
work. So
I'm sorry.
I don't understand all the intricacies here. So we can
I'll just note that when they bid it, they do not provide details on when they're going to work. So the assumption on our side is that they're going to work Monday through Friday, but they have the ability to work whenever they like. So when they work, our team goes out and does inspections and participates. So it's really entirely up to the contractor's team. And they, in this case, chose to work more weekends than we had anticipated.
Okay. I guess I got to move on, but it's, having done a lot of construction projects, I kind of expect that a contractor would provide you with, what it's going to take to finish a project. And if it winds up being that he has to spend extra money because he's working weekends or whatever, that should have been factored into the original contract. That's all I'm saying. But anyway.
Well, and that is from the contractor side, right? So this is not an increase to the contractor. This is an increase to our
Okay.
support team, our construction manager.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Sounds.
Because they had to be on site with them, so they had more weekend hours than anticipated.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. I understand then. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
No, that was a good question. Okay, if there are no other questions, can I get a motion to approve?
This is Jim, I move to approve.
This is Nick, I second.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Moving to item 4, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute a second amendment to work authorization number 1 with AECom Technical Services, Inc. for additional services on the El Paso County Bus Shelter and Sidewalk Program.
Okay, on this one, you may recall we've developed a program with the County of El Paso that we referred to as the Bus Shelter and Sidewalk Program. Really what that program consists of is a bunch of different funding sources and a bunch of different individual projects. Some are bus shelters only for the El Paso County transit system. Some are sidewalk projects that are state funded. So we've compiled all of these different sources and rolled them under this specific program. So this is one of the projects within the program, and this project is actually doing the design or I should say the construction. The design of the certain bus shelters that were identified by a study that the county had developed for its regional transit system, as well as some sidewalks coming up to and leading away from those shelters. Well, on this one, as you'll note, this is a second amendment. The first amendment was required to do some additional survey work that had not been done on one of the locations that was identified for a bus shelter. This second amendment is actually to do, so what happened under the first amendment was when the survey work was done, it was identified, the location that was identified was actually found to be on TxDOT right-of-way. So this second amendment is correcting that and finding a new location that is not on state right-of-way. It's actually on county right-of-way. So the first amendment was to do survey work on the proposed location. We found it was an unsuitable location. So the second amendment has now found and is doing the work for the placement of the new location. This one amounts to $3,219.44. And subject to your questions, I would recommend approval. I should mention, of course, this is all funds that were allocated to the county. The county has reviewed and is supportive of this amendment as well.
Are there any questions? Can I entertain a motion then?
This is Jim. I move to approve.
Nick, I second.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. So moving on to item 5, presentation discussion on change orders recently approved by the executive director for the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan and the Wynn Road project.
Madam Chair, this is Jim. Can I make a comment here?
Yes.
This goes back to what Michael's question was on this. And my understanding of this and what I watch very closely is we're an agent. We provide a service to get all of these different programs done for different entities, such as the city and the county and all of that. So very important, I think, in me understanding what we do, and this might help you, Michael, is that the counterpart in the city or the county that is the one that, that kind of oversees the services that we do for them. That's really important that we're in sync with them. And for example, that's why I asked the question about who is doing the Wynn Road project with the city, and the whole reason behind my question was exactly the item that you brought up. In other words, are we diligently expending the resources and the money that are entrusted to us to accomplish these actions? So the same thing applies to this bus shelter program and the contacts we deal with in the county and everything else. Very, very little is generated by us and done by us for us. So I just wanted to, because that's always been an issue with me, Michael, is the same questions that you brought up.
Well, and I appreciate that, Jim, very much. It's different. I mean, I've run a lot of projects, and I have to be honest that I'm still learning lots of things on this board. I feel like I'm still really green. But you know, the way that the public sector runs things and the way private sector run things sometimes is different. So I'm trying to calibrate and get in alignment with, you know, but I think really I just didn't understand correctly on the issue I brought up. And so that was my bad for not following what was really going on there. But thank you for that clarification.
Well, and I'll follow with this item. These are change orders related to two different, well, a program and a project. The program is the Comprehensive Mobility Plan projects, which are, of course, are funded by the county. And all of these change orders were reviewed and approved by the county folks because it is their funding source prior to even becoming, prior to getting approved by me. Same with the Wynn Road project, of course. The city of El Paso, Yvette, the individual that runs the grant-funded program, she reviews and approves all change orders before we implement any of them on the Wynn Road project because it is funding from the city. So with that, then we'll get into this PowerPoint. This one deals with the change orders that have been approved pursuant to the board resolution. We have 6 change orders that were approved, and we've got more than usual this time because, as you know, we did not have a meeting last month. So this is catching up for the prior month. So 6 were approved, 1 is pending, and none require board action. That means all of them were under $100,000. So the first one deals with Mission Ridge Phase 2. You have this as backup if you have any questions or want to go back through any of the numbers. The one in yellow there, number 11, is the one that was approved for $17,700. This is for a metal beam end treatment. This is at the barriers. At the end of the barrier, it's rounded and softened in air quotes. So that was added for just under $18,000 for Mission Ridge. Pelicano, we've got one, which is number 5, we removed from the contract. This is a deductive change order, so you see a credit there of $15,000. That's because we originally were going to put down a temporary pavement markings that were no longer necessary because I believe on this one we were going to tear out that roadway afterwards. So it was unnecessary. It would have been throwaway work. So rather than do that, we replaced those markings and saved the project $15,000. We've got the rest are with Wynn Road. And again, we are doing this one for the city of El Paso. All of these were reviewed and approved by the city. Number 5, added new gates near the Wynn Road, the bridge on Wynn Road. Number 7 is still pending. We're waiting to hear back from the contractor on that one. We've got number 9 that was approved, which added water barriers along Pan Am Bridge, the Pan American Bridge. During construction, this was a safety issue that was raised by the contractor, and we all agreed that we should have those water barriers during construction. Number 10 added crash cushions at the blunt ends of the barriers on Pan American, and those will stay past the end of the project. That added $36,700. Number 11 was withdrawn. That one was deemed to be no longer necessary. And number 12 was the last one that was approved for $2,000. And that rerouted some existing irrigation system lines that were in conflict. So that's it for this one. And this item, as you know, does not require action. This is just for informational purposes only. So that's all I have for you, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? If not, then I'll move to the next item, number 6, which is discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the executive director to execute and submit documentation of eminent domain authority to the Texas Comptroller as required by statute.
So for this one, several years back, there was a statute that was passed that requires all entities in the state of Texas that have the power of eminent domain to provide an annual report. That report basically asks what gives you the authority to pursue eminent domain. Have you used it in the past, and do you have any intent to use it in the coming year? So it's really a form that we fill out each year, and just by way of background, we have never used eminent domain, and we have no intent to use it in the coming year. So that's how I will fill that out. So what you see as part of your backup is a resolution authorizing me to complete that form and satisfy the statutory requirement. So subject to your questions, I would recommend approval of this resolution.
Any questions? Can I entertain a motion to approve then, please?
Move to approve. Mike Norwich.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion's approved. Item number 7, which is the quarterly presentation, update, and discussion on the following projects or programs. The Borderland Expressway Project, A, and then 7B, the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan.
Okay, both of these, so by way of background, as you know, each quarter we provide updates on each of these projects or programs. They have been provided, the documents have been provided as part of your backup. On item A, you may recall at the last quarterly report, we brought in HNTB. They provided an extensive presentation on the background and provided update on this particular project. I spoke with them just yesterday for an update for this one. I have included as part of the backup the latest brochure that has been updated, I believe, in October. So you have that as part of your backup. Outside of that, the environmental is nearing completion and design will begin before too long. I believe TxDOT has selected a design firm for that one. On the 2013 Comprehensive Mobility Plan, you see that as a much more extensive report because there are several projects still underway. So you see that as part of your backup. But generally speaking, everything is moving very smoothly on that plan. So I don't have anything for you other than those reports that are included in your backup. So subject to your questions, there's no action required. We can move on to the next ones unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
Raymond, this is Jim. Can I provide a comment here on Borderland Expressway, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Okay. As you know, I chair that ad hoc coalition that's put together to kind of manage this project across all the different agencies and the state of Texas and the state of New Mexico. And we did not meet in November. We are meeting this coming Friday. The project is really well positioned to just spring forward as soon as it's fertilized with a little bit of money. They've broken it down into phases. The first phase of which is very quickly going to be shovel ready. And the environmental that Raymond mentioned is right on the edge of completion. And they're holding back a little bit on actually completing the final part of that because a clock starts ticking on the finalization of that, and it's all associated with funding. So everything is going very, very well there. It's just a really confused state as far as funding within Texas. The New Mexico portion of this expressway is all funded. They are, matter of fact, they are starting work. They're in final design and starting work on their side of things as we speak. And we're kind of waiting for the Texas portion to get funded, and they've broken it up into small pieces. So the first phase, I think, is about 18 million. And so as soon as they get a go ahead for that, then all the clock will start ticking on the Texas side. So it's a very good news story with everything, with the exception that the cash register isn't chinging yet. But so that's just a real quick update. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, I'll move to item 8, which is discussion and action on the CRRMA staff report. A, 2020 outreach plan. B, 2020 bicycle world conference. C, subordinate lien vehicle registration fee revenue bond ratings. And D, status of the RMA's 2020 annual audit.
Okay, so I'll take items 8A and B, and then I'll shift it over to Robert for C and D. For 8A, it had been a while since we had talked about the outreach plan. I thought it would be a good time to share with you some of the collateral materials that have been developed to date. When we talked about this program, we agreed to pursue several handouts and design changes to our outreach materials. So we agreed to pursue a new rack card, a trifold document, media info, a construction site sign, PowerPoint, and a newsletter. So here are some of the updates on some of these documents. And this is included in your backup, so you have access to all of this. So you can review them at length when you have time. This is the front side of the rack card, and it's got a real brief description of who we are and what we do. The back side then provides the Spanish version of the same. And so feel free to stop me as I go through this. I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly, but again, you have this as part of your backup. This is the trifold, so if you can envision being folded right here, this would be the front page, this would be the back once it's folded, and this would be the inside. So this looks a little bit like the last one in terms of the outside, but then once you open it up to the inside, this is a newer design, and it's got a map of some of the projects. And this is not all of them, but it's got some of the projects that we've been involved in and explains our involvement. So I think this is going to be a real helpful visual to leave behind when we start meeting folks. Of course, we can mail these out as well in the event that we're not going to actually be able to meet anybody physically in the near future. So this becomes a new resource for us. That's the trifold. This is the, so I'm going to mess with the sizing here. This is what we're looking at for our new letterhead. And then, so all of our letters will go out with that look. And then this, you can spend some time reading this. This is a blurb that will go at the bottom of each of our press releases that provides the media with who we are and what we do, sort of a thing. And we'll share this with our partners, the county, the city, whoever we're doing a project with. So whenever they issue a press release, they will add this to the bottom of the press release. This is a real common procedure, but we want to make sure that our information gets out there so people recognize who we are. Again, this is part of your backup, so you can have a look at it at your leisure. And then this last one is a new that we're looking at doing. This would be a sign that we would put up at construction projects to show that the RMA is involved. So as you drive by, you normally see the construction contractor team has a sign up advertising his work. You see the owner, so the county normally has their logo up, and we would add ours to the mix. So that's what this is. And I'll show you one other thing, the PowerPoint. Let me pull that up if I can. Just give me one moment here. Okay, so this is what we're looking at for the PowerPoint. This is just a couple of slides to show you what we're looking at. It's got a new look, stayed with the heavy purple look. We've got, I'll show you a couple of the different versions of this, of the different slides that we can use as header and transition slides. We've got that sun, which is kind of making its return through our logo and other graphics. And see, these are some of the different types of slides, what they'll look like. We basically took our general PowerPoint and added that context into, or that text, I should say, into these different slides.
Looks good.
So that's what we've got for you. I just wanted to share with you what we're looking at. So that's what I've got for item 8A under the outreach plan. And then just real briefly, as you know, SunCycle, our bike share program, we are one of the B-Cycle team members. So B-Cycle is a national provider of bike share services, right? So they've got operations throughout the country. They have an annual meeting of all of the B-Cycle teams, and usually it's in Waterloo, where they are based in Wisconsin. Of course, this year is a little bit different. So we participated. It was Robert, myself, and the Messia Pedicab team, who actually does the day-to-day operations of SunCycle. We participated online this year, and it was a good turnout. Very interesting program. Learned a lot. So I just wanted to share with you that this year was a little bit different. We did it actually virtually. So I don't have anything more for you on either of those items. Unless you have any questions, I'll turn it over to Robert to handle items 8C and D.
This is Joyce. I do have a comment and a question. So on the outreach plan, I've signed up and I get like the Texas Tribune daily news update, kind of like Axios, but it's the state one, the Tribune. And I noticed the other day that the Central Area Regional Mobility Authority is a sponsor. And I guess you kind of like, it's probably you pay to sponsor or something like that. I don't know how much it is, but that might be a good way just to get some information about us out there that may get a broad audience without a lot of money. And I think and then it gives a little blurb. You probably could put a link to like the digital materials that you have. Might be worthwhile, simply because, I mean, as we move beyond hopefully COVID next year, I mean, there are a lot of, I mean, we've been pretty successful over this past year executing these small agreements with some of these smaller El Paso County jurisdictions to do projects for them. But I'm thinking there might be an opportunity to actually go east into Husbeth and Culberson, maybe even into Marfa and those areas, and work with TxDOT in those communities to see if they're getting projects that they don't really have capacity for, and begin to think about whether or not we want to like expand our reach a little bit more and take advantage of some of that. I mean, that's just something I think the planning committee could discuss down the road. I'm assuming they're not in our, are those counties in our MPO? They're not, are they?
No, ma'am. No, our MPO includes southern New Mexico and El Paso County only, I believe.
Only, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, they've got to have their own MPO. I just don't know, like if Midlands, the Spoke, but I don't think they have an RMA, do they, out that way?
I do not believe so.
Yeah. So I think there might be some opportunities to maybe like expand eastward into some of these rural areas, these communities that may have some infrastructure growth development or desire to do things that they don't really have the capacity or money for. And so anyway, so this Tribune kind of link was just, I just happened to see the RMA for the capital area, and I thought, wow, that's pretty creative way to like promote yourself, because I don't think the digital stuff is as expensive as others. But anyway, maybe at the planning committee, a future planning committee, you all could talk about, do we begin to think in 2021 and 2022 expanding our outreach efforts into some of these other smaller communities outside of El Paso County, because we can serve them, right?
Well, so I've never looked at going east, but so let me spend a little bit of time with the attorneys and walking through that exercise, and then whatever we determine, then I can route that through the planning committee, if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, I was just assuming since we could go into Mexico and New Mexico, that there'd be no prohibition going east into other parts, other smaller counties in Texas. But maybe we're not, maybe we'd need to have some language amendment to do that.
Well, and I wouldn't think that there's a prohibition on us going east necessarily. The issue would be that we have the ability to go to adjoining jurisdictions. So since the RMA's jurisdiction is the city of El Paso, not necessarily the county of El Paso, the question would be, when we go into, for example, into El Paso County, the county is, quote, adjacent.
Oh, I see. So
I don't know that we could jump.
So the next county would not necessarily be adjoining then.
Right, but I don't know that. I think it's a unique question. I think it should be asked and of the attorneys to spend a little bit of time looking into that. So
okay.
Not sure, but let me find that answer for you, and then we can route it through the planning committee.
But the other point on the outreach is there may be some digital opportunities like El Paso Matters.
Right.
And some things here that we could take advantage, like the ink or something, where we could use it just as a way to kind of promote the projects we've done, some of the projects we've got on the horizon, just to kind of enhance awareness without it being very expensive.
Right, and I can look at that as a separate item as well.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Okay, so let's move on to the next two items then. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Robert Suter, Director of Finance for the RMA. So I'm going to give you a brief update on the 2017 bonds with the idea that the full update will go to the Finance Committee at our next meeting, but wanted to provide a brief update to the full board. Just some background, the RMA itself as an organization does not have a bond rating. Instead, each of our issuances are rated independently based on the worthiness of the individual repayment source. In this case, we're talking about vehicle registration fees from El Paso County, that extra $10 fee that you pay annually when you register your vehicle. And we're talking specifically about the second issuance of debt, commonly referred to as VRF2, that was issued in 2017. Those are subordinate lien debt to the senior lien issued in 2014. And after some back and forth at S&P, they took it to their committee, and in November they lowered the bond rating by 1 point from A- to BBB+. They did leave it as stable, and they affirmed our AA rating on, I think AA- rating on the senior lien. Their concern was primarily the coverage ratio for the debt. Coverage ratio is, for example, we've got a $1,000 mortgage and we make $1,500 a month. So our coverage ratio is 1.50. And speaking with S&P, they had hoped to see some growth in revenues, therefore increasing the coverage ratio on the subordinate lien debt. Currently, we're at about 1.06 or 1.07. And they'd like to see us over 1.10. So that, again, going back to the analogy with the mortgage, it means we're making $1,060 or $1,070 a month to pay off that $1,000 mortgage, and they'd like to see us making at least $1,100 a month to pay off that $1,000 mortgage. This is a material event. We did post it. We did post it in what's called CRRMA, which is the Electronic Municipal Marketplace Access. It's basically a repository for continuing disclosures, bond rating changes, financial statements related to municipal issuers.
Oh, okay. But you're welcome to go back and if you need to shut the water off, you can.
Hold on. Okay, so and so that's where it's publicly available information for anyone that wants to look at that, whether it be bondholders or someone interested in purchasing bonds. And so we did post in there, as we are required to do. We reached out to our financial advisor, who were part of our call with S&P and Bond Counsel, to confirm there's no direct impact to the RMA. There is no direct impact. And we notified Ms. Wilson and Mr. Norwich. We also notified our partners with the county so that they are aware of the change. But the ultimate issue is the bonds are sold. And so for secondary transactions, this could have an impact on the price, but there's no impact to the RMA. We did, however, want to notify the board since it was a material event and it is noteworthy to bring to your attention. So I hope that was brief but informative. As I mentioned, we will take a longer update to the Finance Committee at our next meeting. Are there any questions on that specific issue?
I don't have any. I apologize for the noise. I thought I had muted myself.
Quite all right. Okay.
I got a plumbing issue and they were coming back with some materials.
So next is item D, the status of our annual audit. Things are progressing. I will be reaching out to the finance committee to hopefully schedule a meeting that first week of January so that we can review the audit as a committee prior to taking it to the full board at the regularly scheduled board meeting, I believe the 13th of January. So finance committee members, I will be meeting or reaching out to you to try and schedule something between the 4th and the 8th of January for us to get together with the auditors and our consultant to review the audit. But we are moving along well and should have it done in time for the January board meeting. Any questions on that?
I'm fine.
Okay, that's all I
Anybody
have.
else have questions? Is that the last item?
Yes, ma'am. That's all we have for you today.
No executive session?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and wish everybody a Merry Christmas in the process, or Happy Holidays if you don't celebrate Christmas.
This is Jim. I move and I echo the wishing everybody a very, very blessed holiday season.
Yeah, as well.
I second. Happy everything. This is Pat.
Take care,
All
guys.
right, all in favor to adjourn? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Raymond
you. Appreciate it.
and Robert, you both have a happy holiday.